It all started the summer after Grandma passed a quiet, painful summer filled with silences that once echoed with her laughter. Her cooking, her humming while tending to flowers in the garden. Grandpa, stoic as always, had taken 2 long walks around the yard, lingering near the corner where she used to grow lilies. One day, without a word, he began building a shed right on that very spot. Not some big, flashy construction, just a modest wooden shed with a pitched roof, stained a gentle honey color, nestled between 2 rose bushes. It wasn't just a shed. It was his way of grieving, of remembering. He said it was her spot, and he needed something there to make it feel less empty. He stocked it with her gardening gloves, pots, some photos, her favorite books, and an old radio that still played her favorite tunes. I helped him hammer the planks together, sand the edges, and coat it with waterproof sealant. The day we finished it, he stood there a long time, eyes glassy, and whispered, "She'd like this." But within a week, the HOA had a problem. A letter arrived, blunt, impersonal, and filled with legal jargon. Structure not compliant with HOA standards. Must be removed within 14 days or face daily fines. Grandpa, normally calm, grew red in the face. "They didn't even ask why," he muttered. I offered to speak with the HOA on his behalf. When we showed up at the next board meeting, they didn't even let Grandpa explain. A woman named Doris, who acted like the self-appointed queen of the neighborhood, interrupted him repeatedly. "Sheds are prohibited structures unless approved by the architectural committee," she snapped. Grandpa tried to explain that it wasn't just a shed, it was a memorial. She rolled her eyes. Sentiment doesn't override rules. Furious, I pulled up the HOA charter and pointed out that his property sat right at the edge of the neighborhood, backing up against unincorporated county land. That's when we discovered something strange. Grandpa's parcel wasn't technically within HOA jurisdiction. His lot was annexed decades ago under the assumption it would be folded into the HOA. But the paperwork had never been finalized. He had paid dues voluntarily all these years, but had never signed any official agreement. Still, the HOA insisted. That precedent and communal harmony demanded compliance. They threatened liens, legal action, and public shaming in the neighborhood newsletter. Grandpa, being old school and respectful, considered just removing the shed, but I wasn't going to let them bulldoze over his grief. I called in a favor my old friend Sierra, who worked at the county land registrar's office. She pulled every piece of documentation tied to the property and confirmed it. The HOA had no binding authority over Grandpa's lot. Not only that, but they'd been misrepresenting their coverage area to several other homeowners near the outer boundary, collecting dues and issuing fines to people who technically didn't fall under their reach. I brought this to the next meeting, but Doris dismissed it, claiming the county wouldn't care. So I went a step further, filed an official complaint with the county board. Turns out, the county absolutely did care. They launched an investigation. Not just into the HOA's overreach, but into several unlicensed enforcement actions the board had taken over the years. Things snowballed quickly. Neighbors who'd been fined for minor things, fences too high, garden beds too colorful, flags flown on the wrong days, came forward. One couple had been fined for installing solar panels, only to find out later they were never legally under HOA control. The county ordered a temporary suspension of all HOA enforcement activities pending review. And Doris and her board were subpoenaed for a hearing. Meanwhile, Grandpa kept the shed, sitting inside it every morning with his coffee, humming along to Grandma's favorite station. The community grew divided. Some still clung to HOA authority, while others thanked us for standing up. I started getting calls from other residents asking if I could help them verify their property lines and jurisdiction. We were just trying to protect Grandpa's right to grieve, but we had stumbled into a much larger fight. As county officials prepared to make their final ruling, Doris doubled down, distributing a flyer calling us neighborhood disruptors and threatening retaliation. But she had no idea that we were just getting started and that the county's verdict would change everything. The hearing that would decide the fate of not only my grandfather, Shed, but also the HOA's entire authority over the neighborhood, was set for a bright Monday morning at the County Administration Building. Word had spread like wildfire. Residents packed the room, some in support of the HOA, worried about falling property values or community standards. But many others had grown tired of the overreach, the pettiness, and the way people like Doris wielded rules like weapons. Grandpa didn't want to come. "I just wanted a place to remember her," he said quietly, sipping his tea that morning. But I convinced him. "They made it more than that, Grandpa. You deserve to see this through." So we arrived early, took our seats near the front, and waited as the County Board of Land Use Commissioners opened the proceedings. The atmosphere was tense. The HOA's legal representative, a snide man in a slick suit, presented first, arguing that while the property might not have been properly documented, the HOA had acted in good faith for years, and long-standing precedent gave them a reasonable expectation of authority. Then came Sierra, our county registrar ally, who laid out a timeline of the parcel's history, how Grandpa's lot was originally zoned separately, how no formal annexation documents had ever been completed, and how the HOA had no right to enforce any rule there. Then she dropped the real bombshell. Nearly 14 other parcels sat in similar legal limbo, all of them having been pressured by the HOA to follow rules that didn't actually apply. Doris, sitting beside her attorney, turned white. She fidgeted. In her seat, her usual smug composure replaced with barely contained panic. The commissioners asked pointed questions about fines issued without legal basis, about lien threats, about residents being misled. Then I spoke. I didn't hold back. I explained how my grandfather, a retired Army mechanic who had served this country, built that shed not to defy anyone, but to preserve the memory of the woman he loved for 58 years. I told them about the flowers Grandma had planted, the music she loved, the way Grandpa visited the shed every morning just to feel close to her. This was never about a shed, I said. It was about a grieving man's dignity and a community's right to be free from tyranny disguised as order. Applause broke out. Even a few of the former HOA loyalists clapped, their resolve crumbling in the face of the truth. When the county made its decision, it was swift and scathing. The HOA was ordered to cease all enforcement activities on any parcel where jurisdiction was not legally confirmed. They were forced to refund thousands of dollars in improperly collected dues and fines. Doris and 2 other board members were removed from their positions pending a formal investigation, and the HOA was put under temporary county oversight while a rechartering process began. But the story didn't end there. Word of the hearing spread beyond the county. Local news ran a segment titled "The Shed That Brought Down an HOA." Grandpa became a quiet celebrity, though he never cared for the attention. People from neighboring towns started contacting me for help with their own HOA disputes. A group of us even formed a nonprofit called Property Rights First, aiming to educate homeowners about their rights and expose HOA overreach. As for the shed, it still stands. But now, the county declared it a community historical structure, protected from alteration or removal. The plaque outside reads, "In loving memory of Margaret Walters, a garden, a legacy, a stand for justice." Doris eventually moved away, unable to show her face after the scandal. The neighborhood began healing. Fences got painted in colors people actually liked. Flags waved freely. Flower beds bloomed in all shapes and sizes. It was as if the community had exhaled after holding its breath for years. And Grandpa? He goes to the shed every day, just like always. But now, others join him from time to time. They bring flowers, share stories about their own loved ones, or just sit and listen to the birds. The shed became more than a memorial. It became a reminder that sometimes the smallest buildings built not out of defiance, but out of love can shake the tallest towers of power. And all it took was one grieving man, one stubborn grandson, and one truth too powerful to ignore.